The F-4E Phantom is a two-seat aircraft where each crew member is responsible for different aspects of the plane. The front crew is the pilot and tasked with controlling and flying the aircraft and delivering its weapons. The back crew is the Weapon Systems Officer, WSO, and tasked with operating the radar, employing the navigation systems, and configuring weapons. On DCS, the simulation provides an artificial WSO, so that even on single-player mode we can fly the F-4E as pilots, helped by the AI WSO. Unfortunately, there is no AI pilot, so this training mission is meant only for the pilot. On a real F-4E, the cold start procedure is not just about starting engines and go fly, it is also about making sure that every aircraft system is actually working correctly before going into the air. So many procedure steps are checks to make sure every system operates correctly. Select your preference, press spacebar if you want to learn all the procedure steps, including all checks and non-essential steps. Press backspace if you want to learn just the essential steps, omitting all the rest. Okay, you have chosen to learn just the essential steps, omitting all the checks and non-essential steps. Two variants of the cold start are provided on this training mission. Normal cold start, employing ground electric power and an external pneumatic air source. Autonomous cold start, employing the aircraft's electric battery and two compressed air cartridges, not employing any ground support at all. You have selected to perform a normal cold start, employing ground electric power and an external pneumatic air source. We will begin this cold start procedure with the steps of the before exterior inspection section of the F-4E normal procedures. Put on the helmet that is over the right canopy rail by clicking on it. It is a bit dark at this hour. If you can't find a cockpit element, feel free to employ your flashlight, which can be toggled with left Alt+L. Another way to illuminate the cockpit at cold start is the cockpit white floodlights. They are connected directly to the battery bus, so they can be used even on a cold aircraft, but do not leave them on too long, to prevent draining the battery. Finding the switch in the dark can be difficult, so you may want to assign a keyboard binding to it. On my case I employ left Control F. Also, if the air traffic noise prevents you from hearing me clearly, you can close the canopy at any moment, as it is pneumatically operated and does not need electric power. Press spacebar to continue. Throttle levers, off. Click on the finger lifts on the front side of each throttle to move them from off to idle and vice versa, or use the command bindings shown. Press spacebar once you confirm both throttles are at off. For this mission, you selected a normal cold start, employing ground electric power and an external pneumatic air source. First, we will ask the ground crew to connect an external power unit, like the AM32-60, which can provide both electrical power and compressed air, for cranking the engine. While on real life the pilot would usually employ hand signals to ask for the external power, you can also employ the Phantom's intercom to talk with the crew chief. To do this, we must power up the intercom employing our onboard battery, by turning on either, or both, engine master switches. Do this now. Ask ground crew to connect ground electric power. On DCS this is accomplished by using the gesture menu. Press A to call up the crew chief menu. Good, now select crew chief, then external power, and finally select connect. You can dismiss the circular menu by pressing and holding the A key. Press spacebar once you hear the crew chief confirming that external power is actually connected.
External power connected.
At this point, on the rear cockpit the WSO should set the instrument ground power switch to test. This connects the instrument's buses to external electric power, contingent upon the front cockpit generator switches also being set to external on. On DCS for single player, the gesture AI does this switching automatically upon connection of ground power. Generator switches, set to external on. Do not do this before ground crew confirms that ground power has been connected and has reached its rated voltage and frequency. The external on setting is used for ground handling purposes when connected to external power, and provides electric power to all instruments, except the CNI and the AFCS. Transformer rectifier, check. Both transformer rectifiers are operating correctly, if the landing gear indicators show gear down when the battery is disconnected, and the generator switches are an external. Turn both engine master switches off now, to disconnect the battery. Press spacebar, once you have checked the landing gear indicators for correct indication. Good, this last step completes the before exterior inspection section of the cold start, when using ground power. Press spacebar to begin the front cockpit interior check. Good, this completes the front cockpit interior check. Press spacebar to proceed with the before starting engines procedure. Throttles, off. Double check that both throttles are on their off position. Press spacebar to begin the starting engines procedure. The real aircraft start procedure establishes the right engine as being started first, to ascertain that both utility hydraulic system pumps are operating properly. The right engine pump delivers 2,775 plus minus 225 psi at idle, while the left engine pump delivers 3,000 plus minus 250 psi. Because of this, the single needle utility hydraulic pressure indicator cannot be used to determine pump operation, unless the right engine is started first. As we have ground electric power connected, we can contact air traffic control on the radio, to ask for starting engines clearance. On the UHF radio, COM channel knob, select preset 2, for Bodo ATC. COM mode knob, set to transmit receive or TR plus guard, for voice communication. COM CMD button, make sure that your cockpit has command of the radio, its light should be lit green. On your HOTAS throttle, set the mic switch forward, to transmit over the radio. The mic switch back is for transmission with the intercom. The DCS communications menu should appear. Its top line identifies which radio device you are using. On this case it's the UHF ARC-164 radio. Select F5, ATC. F1, Bodo. F3, request startup. Press spacebar once ATC has cleared you for startup and press F12 to clear the menu.
Enfield 1-1. Cleared for startup. Wind 264 at 6 meters per second.
The engines can be started by utilizing electrical power from either an external power source or from the aircraft battery, and by utilizing air pressure from a ground cart or from a pyrotechnic cartridge. For this particular training mission, we will employ a ground air source. External air source, ask ground crew to connect the air source to the right engine. Good, now select crew chief, then air source, and finally select connect to right engine. Press spacebar once you hear the crew chief confirming that external air is actually connected.
Roger. Yes, sir. We are connected right.
Engine master switches, both to on. This action provides electrical power to each engine's boost and transfer fuel pumps. To start each engine, once its RPM reaches 10%, you will need to simultaneously move the throttle from stop to beyond idle, while keeping its ignition button pressed. While you can move the throttle from off to idle by clicking on its finger lifts, and then advance it by moving forward your HOTAS throttle lever, make sure to bind at least the ignition buttons, to make it easier to perform these 3 actions on a single take. Press spacebar to continue. Engine, crank. On this step, you signal ground crew to start external airflow. On DCS this is done with the circular menu. Press A to call up the crew chief menu again, if it is not already visible. Then select air source and then start airflow.
Yep, I'm done.
Monitor the RPM. At 10% press and hold the right ignition button, while advancing the right throttle to a position halfway up the quadrant, then snap the throttle back to idle. Release the ignition button as soon as a sharp rise in EGT indicates light off. At 45% RPM, signal ground crew to stop external airflow.
Done.
Idle RPM is reached at 65 plus minus 1%. Right generator control switch, set to Gen on. Ensure both RH Gen out and bus tie open lights go out. To avoid an electrical power interruption which could result in an INS no-go indication, the pilot should ensure that the INS is not in the align mode when the generator is switched to Gen on. We will now repeat the same previous steps, but with the left engine. External air source, ask ground crew to connect air to left engine. Press A to call up. Now select crew chief, then air source, and finally select connect to left engine. Press spacebar once the crew chief confirms that the external air is connected.
Connected on the left, sir.
Engine, crank. Press A to call up the crew chief menu again if it is not already visible. Then select air source and then start airflow.
Done.
Monitor the RPM. At 10% press and hold the right ignition button, while advancing the right throttle to a position halfway up the quadrant, then snap the throttle back to idle. Release the ignition button as soon as a sharp rise in EGT indicates light off. At 45% RPM, signal ground crew to stop external airflow.
And done.
Idle RPM is reached at 65 plus minus 1%. Left generator control switch, set to on. Ensure both LH Gen out and bus tie open lights go out, and that INS is not in the align mode yet. Once both generators are active, on DCS single player mode Jester will ask if you are ready to begin the alignment. Use the mouse to click with
Ready for alignment?
and then confirm by clicking on Yep.
Roger.
Next, Jester will ask which
Hey, what alignment do you want?
Click again within its red circle. Jester will then offer 3 alignment options. Full alignment, for the greatest INS precision but takes around 8 minutes to align. Best available true heading, bath, takes only a bit over 2 minutes but it has around half the precision. Heading memory alignment is offered only if there is prior alignment data on the system, takes the same time as bath but its precision is closer to the full alignments. As we are omitting all checks and kind of on a hurry, select between the shorter bath or memory alignments. Do not click on full. Jester will carry out the selected alignment. Press spacebar to continue.
Stored heading. Alrighty then.
External air source, disconnect. Good, now select crew chief, then air source, and finally select disconnect. Press spacebar once you hear the crew chief confirming that external air has been disconnected.
And air is disconnected.
External electrical power, disconnect. Ask ground crew to disconnect ground electric power by selecting crew chief, then external power, and finally select disconnect. Press spacebar once you hear the crew chief confirming that external power has been disconnected.
Roger. External power disconnected, sir.
Before taxi, we will omit the following check steps. Trim, check and set 1 to 3 units nose down. Check operation of the pitch trim indicator and set it between -1 and -3 units down. With trim at -3, you will have a nose-heavy tendency on the takeoff roll, which quickly approaches a trim condition as the aircraft lifts off in gear and
You can go primary sync now. Alignment's
with
done.
-1,
Alright, ready to taxi.
trim occurs beyond 230 knots during takeoff, requiring a large nose-down trim change at a very low altitude. Altimeter and static pressure compensator, SPC, set and check. The SPC is a regulating module within the air data computer, used to eliminate major altimeter lag during rapid changes in altitude. The CADC switch, located near the throttles, controls the functioning of the SPC. The switch has positions for reset correction, normal, and correction off. With the switch in norm and the SPC operating normally, major altimeter lag during rapid changes in altitude is eliminated. Set current altimeter setting on the barometric scale. For today's mission it is 29.92 inches of mercury. On DCS it is already set. The altimeter pointer should indicate the field elevation within ±75 feet. We are currently at Bodo, which is at 42 feet above sea level. Press spacebar to continue. Prior to each flight, the SPC must be reset by placing the SPC switch to its position, reset correction, and hold it there. Once reset, engage the SPC by releasing the switch to its central position, norm. The altimeter should indicate the field elevation within 90 feet. The same procedure should have been done by the weapons system officer, on the back seat, and after the SPC reset, the difference in altimeter reading between the front and rear cockpit should not exceed 75 feet. Press spacebar to continue. ADI reference system selector, primary. Sets the ADI to gather its attitude data from the INS, but be sure that the INS alignment has completed. The ADI and HSI will adjust to the new reference attitude. Wheel chocks and ground interphone cord, removed. The cold start is finished. Ask the ground crew to remove the wheel chocks. Press spacebar once they have been removed.
Wheel chocks out. Chocks out. Have a good flight, sir. Disconnecting.
Congratulations, you have successfully completed an abbreviated cold start, omitting all check steps and employing ground electric power and pneumatic air supply. It's been a long lesson. Take a rest break before attempting the next taxi, takeoff, and climb training mission. Press spacebar to exit.